When Abby came in for her appointment and we were doing the consultation, she said, Adrienne, all I want is to be a redhead. And I said, all I want is to be a millionaire. So sometimes we don't get what we want, right, Abby? No, I'm just kidding. I was so excited to make her a redhead, but I wanted to be very intentional in how I would approach this, especially because I want to give her longevity in her color, which is why I will be making sure that I fill rather than just applying a final toner formula. Let's talk about the process. So before I go in to do my highlights and my dimension, because we do want to create that element of soft multi-dimension for her, I'm going to be shifting her base using Color Gel Oils Clear and 10 Volume Developer. Once that's done, dry that hair and get in for those highlights. For the highlights, I'll be using Redken Flash Lift with 20 Volume Developer. And the main focus of those highlights are gonna be around her face frame and then also some in that Mohawk area, as well as not forgetting about a few foils in the back nape so that when Abby presents her hair forward over her shoulders, it feels cohesive with that dimension throughout. Once our highlights are processed, it's gonna be time to fill. So now applying the knowledge that we have about filling and also realizing that it's gonna be so important to give that final color something to grab onto. I know that I want to move in the direction of a CR, but not just any CR. The Redken Unstoppable Reds. And now with the just revitalization of the Reds collection in shades EQ, there's more pigment, there's more intensity. And that's what redheads want. They want vibrancy. I mean, I think Abby wants some vibrancy, I'm pretty sure. So I'll be using 08 CR with its incredible red and orange reflect, and that's gonna be the fill. Then when it's time to tone our zone 1 and our zone 2 and 3, I'm gonna be on zone 1, making sure that I put something very special and important into the formula, and that is the NB series. I'm gonna give you the why in a second. The zone 1 formulation is 05C plus 07NB. Now the C is pretty self-explanatory. It's in there because it has that orange reflect and it's gonna give us that copper deposit. But the NB we now know is the true natural. I love putting an NB into the zone 1 formulation for most of my reds and coppers because it's sort of like a stabilizer. It's still going to allow and promote that red deposit because of its red primary, but it's not going to brown out the formula too much. It's gonna allow that C to do its thing, but it's just gonna create a little bit of a more stable foundation to keep it from almost looking a little too, if you will, fake-o, right? Now, after I do my zone 1 application, I'm gonna move right into that zone 2 and zone 3 formula. For that, I'm gonna be doing 06CR, 07C, and Orange Kicker. Something else I wanna call out, you notice I don't have Shades EQ Clear in any of the formulations for my red. It's because I want the full tonal deposit. I don't wanna dilute anything. For the zone 2 and 3 formulation, just to kind of cover all of those pieces, the CR, of course, with its orange and red reflect to just be bright and vibrant. Our C, just to give a little extra punch of orange. And then the Orange Kicker, I mean, I could or could not have put that in, but I thought if we are going red, let's go all the way. And so the Orange Kicker, as a reminder, it's in that no background family, so it's gonna be true to tone. It is going to be bright, and it's just gonna add incredible vibrancy to our formula. And don't forget, all of these, we made sure that we included those unstoppable reds in there just because we want that bold red. So now that we have shifted the base of Abby, and you can see that we're already in a really exciting place with warmth and vibrancy with that Color Gel Oils Clear and 10 Volume, it's time to jump into our foil work. For our foil work, we wanna make sure that we're going into it with a great blueprint. So that's why we're gonna section ahead of time. This sectioning is super, super easy to approach. We are just doing 4 simple sections throughout the head. So we're gonna be beginning by just identifying where the part is. She is a middle parter. And so from the part line at the very top of the head, we're gonna take this section all the way down to directly behind her ear. The reason that I keep the sectioning when I'm doing more of a partial foil service really just simplistic is because I wanna see where the hair is gonna be falling. I like to be a little bit more playful with my partials because especially if you're doing it, let's say on a blonde, you're really just trying to treat the needs of the areas that need the most attention. But in Abby's case, we really know that we just want the focus to be on the face frame, a little bit in the mohawk, and just a little bit in that back hairline as well. So top of the head to directly behind the ear, we'll clip these sides off. So while the sectioning in the front was really easy, the back is incredibly difficult. I mean, this is gonna be the hardest sectioning I believe that you have ever done in your entire life. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. It is top of the head, all the way back down to the nape. It's really easy. You're just making 2 more sections back here. You're splitting that up into 2. And again, not over stressing yourself about being super, super accurate when it comes to these specific sections because of the fact that you are gonna be taking the hair down as you foil and just sort of playing around and seeing how it is falling. So 4 sections all in all. Just to be super clear with you, we have top of the head to behind the ear on both sides, and in the back, we are just dividing that in half. Now it's time to get into the application. So for our lightener choice, we are sticking with Flash Lift and 20 Volume Developer. I'm gonna use my whisk to make sure that I'm mixing properly, and we're gonna be doing more of a foilayage application on Abby. With foilayage, I think a lot of times there can feel confusion if you should weave or if you should slice. And we did actually talk about this when it comes to low lighting, making that decision. But what about when you are trying to lift and you're trying to create brightness? Well, it's again about what that intention is. And in the case of Abby, I just want to slice all of my foilayage that I am doing in my interior, but I want to weave the foilayage that I'm doing right in the money piece area. Because slicing, as we know now, is gonna get you coverage, and weaving is going to get you softness. And right around that face frame, we're not looking for coverage, we're looking for softness. So we have this really just beautiful consistency of product. So let's go in with our very first section. All right. Do you start in the front or do you start in the back? In the case of Abby, I'm gonna be starting in the back because I'm not trying to get any type of extreme lift, right? So knowing that I'm not trying to get any type of intensive lift, I'll start in the back so that it can start that process of, getting us to where we wanna be. But additionally, on top of it, I want you to also keep in mind the fact that I'll be able to rinse these areas as they become ready. And it's similar to, if you think about, the idea of like zones, I can kind of rinse everything out in zones.
Oh, hey there, my little foiling fanatics. Adrienne Dara here, just popping on to show you a little hot tip. Something that I do that has helped me so much when I foil with timing and visualization is to pull foils as I foil. I set a timer, and every 20 to 30 minutes, I stop what I'm doing and I check the foil. If the foil is fully processed, then I will pull the foil. To do so, I make a peace sign with my fingers. I put my fingers at the very top of the hair shaft, and with tension, I pull off the light. Now, you're probably thinking, but Adrienne, doesn't this create bleeding onto the natural hair that's in between the foil? It's all about the tension. Make sure if you do your first pass and you still have a good amount of lightener on there, do it again. This technique is also great because if you struggle to visualize the end result, you can actually see where the blonde is living. All right, my friends, just another cool tool to put in your hairstylist tool belt. Now, let's get back to it.
So the first section, what we're actually gonna be doing is we're not going to be concentrating so much. Like if you notice with her hairline, we could potentially go in and take a section on the side here, but we're not trying to worry so much about what this is gonna look when her hair's presented over her shoulders. We're just trying to kind of cover as much territory back here as possible. So I'm gonna go in, and my first section is gonna be from that parting, and I'm just gonna take it on a strong diagonal. So it's gonna be all of this hair. It's a pretty thick section, I would say. That is about a 1/2 inch section. We're gonna clip this up out of the way. And something that I wanna point out is I am always light-handed in my tease, yet heavy-handed in my physical application. Let me explain that a little more deeply. So I'm light-handed in my tease in the fact that I'm only gonna tease about 2 to 3 times. I don't like to tease a lot because I don't like brushing out tease. That's the truth. I'm speaking the truth here. I just don't like brushing out tease. So I'm gonna start right in that mid shaft, and I'm gonna tease 1, 2, 3 times. Then I can go in and I can paint directly up into that physical tease, and it will create a softer transition. So watch this. Take that section, minimal product on that brush. We're gonna start right in that mid. As I'm applying that product, what you're gonna notice is rather than immediately going to that zone 3 to apply there, I'm actually gonna work on sort of feathering it upwards closer to the tease. What's gonna feel scary is in a moment, you're going to see me paint directly up into that tease. So if you take a look at this right now, that looks a little frightening. You have all these little areas, these pickups, if you will, that have lightener on them. And it may kind of feel almost like, well, wait a second, Adrienne, when you close that foil, isn't that going to create sort of an area of bleeding or inconsistency? What I want you to remember is that all those little pickups of lightener, they're going to create almost like a mini base bump so that the transitional point from her base into her dimensional tone is just fluid, is soft, looks intentional. Because again, remember, the goal with our highs is that we never want our Shades EQ to be correcting inconsistent foil work. So the goal always with our highlights is that we want it to be just really soft and dainty and just perfect in the way that we apply. So we're gonna close up our very first section. All right, so where are we gonna go from here? Let me lay out the visual for you so that you can really see. We are not actually gonna be doing any back-to-back foil work at all. Everything is going to be leaving hair out in between because this is technically a partial. So I'll be doing a total of 3 foils in the back here. So 1, 2, 3. We're gonna match the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3. So I want you to think of it as a series of V's and they're kissing. So we're gonna do a series of 3 different V's. Once we have done all of that in the back, then it's gonna be time for us to move to the front and to the sides. This, again, it's going to be super simple. I mean, keep it as simple as possible because the Shades EQ is what's really gonna make this, like, tie all of this together. So on the sides, we'll take our whole section down. The idea behind this is that we wanna focus on the areas that are going to be the most impactful for, of course, when her hair is up, but also for when her hair is down. So I can see that this is gonna be a major player in our game because this is going to be right around her face. We know we wanna do something framing her face here. So I'm gonna take some pieces here because I really want you to see this. So our application will start sort of in her sideburn area, but not exactly in the sideburn because we are gonna be leaving hair out. So this is gonna be our first section that we're gonna take. And then we're gonna let there be hair that lives in between. I'm not opposed to you just sort of playing around with how much hair you want in between at that hairline. We don't want anything going right to the root. Everything's gonna be foilayage. So as you can see, I'm just leaving a very minimal amount of hair there. I'm gonna take my section and I'll be teasing this again, 1, 2, 3. And actually, let's sort of re-tease that because I don't know if you noticed when we did that, some of the hair, because she actually has some really kind of short hairs here. And this isn't breakage. This is just naturally a part of her hairline. So I'm gonna reposition myself and have a little bit more tension when I'm teasing. That's an important piece of it. I wasn't holding it as tightly as I could have. So holding that at as low elevation as possible. And I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. You can see already our tease is so much cleaner. We'll go in and apply this section, and then this way it'll really kind of start to show you how we're shaping all of this together. Same deal again, starting in that mid shaft and just being mindful, letting our client know what we need, right? I need you to hold your head steady, please, and make sure that you're resisting me when I'm pressing on your head, because the positioning of our client, we sometimes forget, is one of the most important pieces of this to get clean saturation and a clean application. And you know what, I'm gonna tell you something. Sometimes if I have to communicate that a couple times to my client, I start fining them at the end. I say, for every moment that you lean forward, I'm gonna charge you an extra $500 to $1,000. It's been really great just from the perspective of getting them to listen, but also client retention. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. They will leave. They will 100% leave. Okay, so how is this gonna work in terms of like direction and how our foils are gonna pivot? So obviously we started this foil on a strong diagonal. What's actually going to happen is you're going to be foiling on a diagonal, but the goal is that you eventually want these foils to live at a complete horizontal. And I guess you could say that the best way, in my opinion, to understand where foils should be placed has to do, of course, with head curvature, but a lot of it has to do with facial features. So I am trying to get those foils to curve and fan and curve and fan until they are horizontal and aligning with the arch of my client's eyebrow. So if you notice, what's gonna happen is just by doing that, it signals to me that my stopping point on the side of the head and when that foil needs to live on a horizontal is right here, because that's where the arch of the eyebrow is. Now you might be wondering, what is all this? Well, if I do that same thing on the other side and I measure the width of those sections, what you're gonna find is we're carving out our Mohawk section. Why do I not pre-section out the Mohawk in a situation like this? You absolutely can. It's just my specific style. I know for me, I sometimes will, sort of change my mind a little as I'm doing my foil work. Maybe, okay, I want to make this section a little bit thicker, or I want to adjust some foil placement here. If you are someone who it is way easier for you to pre-section out that physical area of the Mohawk, then absolutely do so. Because this is where it leaves us with, once we've measured out from eyebrow to eyebrow, I'm gonna turn her so you can see. So you can see that we're at arch of the eyebrow and arch of the eyebrow. Now, what do you do if your client doesn't have good eyebrows? You don't color their hair. It will be impossible to do. No, that is not the case, but this is just a really great guideline for you for understanding how to approach all of this. So what'll happen now that you have the Mohawk section figured out, super easy. I'm gonna make your life so easy right now. Your whole Mohawk is gonna be on a horizontal. You're taking foils and you're just working straight on back. But remember, in your Mohawk section, in your face frame, those are going to be weaves, because you don't want to have anything that is too harsh around the face frame. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you one of her face frame foils so you can understand what that should look like. And keep in mind, obviously we're showing you foil work within different sections of her head, but I wanted you to get an understanding with Abby because we are doing such a spaced out placement. I just wanted you to have an understanding of what your starting point is for each section. So look down a little, perfect. So I'm gonna just take that horizontal section, and for this, I actually won't leave any hair in between. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take my weave. It's gonna be a finer weave. And what I'm gonna do actually is I'll take this section and I'll just clip it out of the way. The first thing that we're gonna foil is gonna be the bottom part of the weave. So 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna paint now that very first area of her face frame. Here's another hot tip for you. You know, in our industry and for us, you know, behind the chair, we're so used to generally saying money piece, but I have kind of found oftentimes that clients may have a negative experience with a money piece in general. So if you say money piece, sometimes it can feel a little scary to them, it can feel a little uncomfortable. So that's why I prefer when I'm doing my consultations and I'm talking to my clients to actually say, are you more attracted to a bold or a soft face frame? I like to call this visual verbiage because in turn, what it really is doing is ensuring that what you are visualizing, your client is visualizing, and it keeps you on the same page. So this will be a back-to-back foil. And then after this, we're going to do just one more back-to-back weave, and then everything else is gonna be a slice with hair in between. The kind of crucial point to all of this is just understanding that you don't wanna overfoil when you're doing an application like this. So this is the real reason why I like to do that pre-sectioning. Even though this was minimal pre-sectioning, it just really helps to ensure that I'm keeping myself on track, because I'm gonna tell you, I am a serial overfoiler. And so when I didn't properly section, what was happening is I was constantly finding myself in a position where I had been foiling for hours and hours, and it was just so unnecessary. So I'm gonna continue to foil her, and then the next step after she's processed will be filling. I can't wait to continue to take you through this entire application. So we now have done our full foil application and allowed it to process on Abby. And it's time for us to go in and do that really integral step of filling. If you were to look at her hair right now, you know, you can tell that, okay, we shifted her base with our Color Gel Oils Clear and 10 Volume. We lifted her, but we made sure that we were only lifting to warmth. We weren't lifting past the point of warmth. So it kind of feels like, why would we go in and fill when the foundation itself is warm? But I wanna remind you that filling truly should be a two-step process in a case such as Abby's, because of the fact that we are taking her to this vibrant red. If we don't fill and we were to just hypothetically apply our zone 1 and our zone 2 and 3 formula, sure, I mean, it would look beautiful. I mean, it would be a beautiful end result. However, she would find that it washed out very quickly, and perhaps it would not be as vibrant as she was seeking, which is why we want to do that separate step of filling. We want to create that super just deposit of warmth, that warmth on her hair and that warmth in her heart as well. Smile, Abby. Don't look afraid. Okay. So the reality is that by going in and doing the fill, we are allowing it to give that final toner formula something to really grab onto. So I hope that this really gives you a light bulb, right? A little bing moment, because a lot of times when we look at a canvas such as this after we've lifted it, it may be deceiving. So after we do our fill, we're gonna go in and do our zone 1 and our zone 2, 3 final toner formulation. And when it's all said and done, this one over here, she's gonna be an amazing looking red. So now Abby's color is complete and she is officially a redhead. And you know, when we went through this whole process, I think the real star of our show here was putting that fill in. And as a reminder, we're not putting it into the formula. It is an additional step. She's now going to have a foundation to allow her to have color retention, to upkeep this beautiful color. Also, on top of it, I mean, let's not forget about the Unstoppable Reds, the revitalization of the Reds family in Shades EQ. This has just created such intensity and yumminess in that color. Another point that we want to always make sure we're doing is we want to be applying our reds, especially on 100% dry hair, because Shades EQ in general, that is how it's going to reach its full potential as a product. So the big pieces here when we were doing this transformation was making sure that we're filling and making sure that we're applying on dry hair, and also understanding what the upkeep needs are of our client. Something that I always like to ask in a consultation when we're doing a big transformative look such as Abby's is, realistically in a 1 year period of time, how often do you want to get your hair colored? And this way I can, especially for my reds and my coppers, give them a great plan for coming in to get gloss services in between their appointment. So anyway, we are just happy from head to toe about how this turned out. She looks amazing. I look disheveled, but it's all about her. So that's all that matters.